Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me okay? Please let me know if you can. Hello, Daniel. Perfect audio. Awesome. Let's wait a few minutes. Let some more people flow in here. I see the number ticking up. So let's just wait like a minute or so. But go ahead and ask questions away. I'll just read through the feed over here, and I'll answer questions when we start to get going. Ashley, Clarissa, Brady, what's up? Getting you through school, huh, Cody? Appreciate that, man. I'm glad the videos can help you out. What's up, Steph? Hey, no problem, Chris. All right, well, let me just start this off with, we just hit 20,000 subscribers yesterday, which was pretty awesome. Crazy to think about. I mean, I think it took a little over a year to hit 10,000 subscribers, and it took about 5 months to hit another 10,000. So now we're at 20,000 subs, which is pretty crazy. Just hit it yesterday. Very excited about that. Very, very excited. I always am just humbled at the amount of people that watch the videos and the amount of good feedback that I get from you guys, the audience, all you guys out there watching these videos, basically showing and sharing how much you appreciate the videos and how much it's helped you out in school. It really makes me feel good that like I'm giving back to the community out there, the surgical tech community, a little bit, because I know it can be tough. It can be tough. Darn chair will not lock. There we go. Now I can sit up. So yeah, let's answer a couple questions. Eddie, my man, how's the new house coming along? The new house is coming along good. I did share with you guys a couple videos ago, I think, that my wife and I are moving into a new house, or we're building a new house. So the past few weeks have been extremely stressful with getting this house that we're in ready to sell, and just fixing little things up here and there. So it's been pretty stressful, but we're getting through it. And the new house is coming along. They've started trenching the ground, and I think they're going to be laying the foundation here pretty soon. So super excited for that. All right, Daniel, any advice for someone who's been working in a non-sterile field to suddenly get into a sterile field like the OR? Do you want to add some more onto that, Daniel? What's your training? What's your position? What's your position now? Do you have your CST, and are you working somewhere else in the hospital and you want to move into the OR, or is it something else? Or are you thinking about going to school for your CST? Please let me know more. I've been working in the ER, ICU, trauma, etc., and did excellent. Now I'm entering the OR and I'm having a hard time adjusting from the non-sterile environment to the sterile environment. Are you a nurse? What's your background? Telemetry. Okay. I mean, the sterile environment is we always tell people that come into the OR, don't touch anything that's blue. Everything that's blue, don't even go near it. It's different too, because when you're in non-sterile environments, obviously you have a lot more patient interaction because the patient is awake the whole time. So you don't really get that as well. But I guess my biggest advice is just steer clear of sterile environments, like all the blue things in the room. Yeah, I guess. I don't really know what else to say. Let's go. Can I become a doctor doing regular classes in high school? Legification 15. I mean, you could become anything you want to become. All it takes is dedication to do what you want to do, and you can get to do it. Ashley, I start CST school in August, but I already work in the OR as a tech, so I know how the OR runs. But what would be the biggest tip and the best way to study instruments? Studying instruments is difficult because it really is 100% memorization. It's really hard to initially, when you're learning instruments, it's really hard to try and like group things together. Yes, you can group retractors together and hemostats together and stuff like that, but it really just comes down to memorization. I think what helped me with memorization of instruments is putting 2 and 2 together as far as the surgical procedure and the instruments used in the surgical procedure. So think about like the general minor instrument video that I did, that like general minor instrument tray. I will look at that tray and I'll be like, okay, what types of procedures am I going to be using this instrument tray on? And what instruments am I going to be using for those procedures? And then I just try and connect them all. So I have like one cohesive understanding of not only the procedures, but how the instruments are used. And then when you do that over time, it all kind of comes together and you start to recognize the instruments a lot easier when you can kind of think about how they're used. Hope that helps. Let's see. TR Emmanuel, I'm from India now. It's 3 a.m. Waited for your live interaction. Dang! That is crazy. So actually, I meant to say thank you, everyone, for coming out here to the live stream. This is the second time we're doing the live stream, and that is crazy, man. 3 a.m. Thank you so much for coming out at such a crazy time. I'm sorry. I sometimes forget that people all over the world watch these videos, but man, thanks for coming out for the stream. Jessica Domingue, is the state board exam written or is it practical exam? It is an online exam, so it's like a big long multiple choice exam. I think it's like 200 something questions. They put you in a room, and the room may have like 4 or 5 computers to it. All the computers have these wall partitions, so you can't see the next person beside you. You cannot leave the room. If you do leave the room, I don't think you can leave the room because it's timed. Yeah, it's pretty intimidating, to be honest with you. I hate taking tests, and that's how the CSFA test was too. When I took the FA test, I went down to a testing center and had to sit in front of the computer, just like my CST, and with the little wall partitions, and I was in there for like 2 hours answering questions. It's intense. It really is. But, it's all multiple choice, so at least it's not written or, I hate written questions. Those are the worst. All right. Jose Hernandez, any advice in joining the cardiac team? I currently do everything else, including abdominal and transplant. I would say that... Oh, I did pronounce your name right. Thank Domingue. I would say my biggest advice for wanting to get onto a heart team, if you already do vascular, if you don't do vascular, start doing vascular. And really, if you want to get into hearts, you really got to get in good with the heart team. The heart team that I work with and that I have worked with for the past 10 years, we're a very close-knit team. we do those same procedures together all the time. So you got to think of it as, if you want to be in on that team, you're a person that's entering into a family type deal. Now, not all heart teams are like that. I've heard some people are pretty nasty toward one another, but my team we're like a family. We're like a close-knit family. And yeah, I mean, if you really want to get into it, just express your interest in learning hearts, and that you really just want to get in there and do your best and learn, if they're willing to teach you. And if they're willing to teach, take it. Absolutely take that opportunity, because I love hearts. It is so much fun. Super, super fun. All right, we're getting lots and lots of questions now, so I got to scroll back up to see what I missed here. Wow, I missed a lot of questions. Search Tech Student Guide. Any tips for students on how to get faster at setting up sterile back table? My tips are always learn how to open your back table first, because there's a certain way you can open your back table which will enable you to set up faster. If you open everything onto one side of the back table, and you're able to, as soon as you scrub in to set up, you're able to kind of set up your working field without having to move other things out of the way. It's a very important thing to do. So it's not just setting up the field, it's also opening the field is another big part of it, which really helps reduce that setup time as well. Other than that, repetition. Difference between a surgical tech and a surgical assistant, baby charms. Biggest difference between the two are the surgical assistant basically just has a more broad scope of practice. We're able to, staple things, cut things, suture things. Basically, we as FAs in the room are able to do anything that the surgeon wants us to do under their direction, if that makes sense. Aside from making the first incision in a surgery, we are pretty much able to do anything and everything in there, so it's pretty awesome. Always under the direction of the surgeon, though. Lucky Kirkpatrick, best site to study actual surgical procedures from? I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, where to study the actual surgical procedures from. I know I've watched a lot of surgery videos here on YouTube, because it's a great platform to research some surgeries, or at least see some surgeries that you may not have seen before. So I have used it for multiple times. I'm perioperative assistant. Bay to Vegas. Hey, I'm working on my CSA. Hey, you're in Vegas. Me too. Hey, I'm working on my CSA, and I was wondering if Nevada recognized the title versus CSFA. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I am not sure. I know they recognize the CSFA, and I know multiple CSFAs here in town that work multiple different hospitals, and some that work in FA specific groups, but I don't personally know any CSAs. TR Emmanuel, I am Indian. Can I get a surgical tech job in the US? What are the requirements? Hope you answer it. Emmanuel, TR Emmanuel, the requirements for the most part are that you need to go through an accredited surgical technology program and get your CST, or sit for your CST exam or your NCCT exam, and become a certified surgical tech. There are some hospitals here in the US, usually smaller towns. If they're really, really hard pressed to find techs to work there, they may hire techs without certifications, or I have heard of some cases where they train on the job. I don't think that's the smartest thing to do, but there still are places out there that do that. It feels like Daniel, this is adding on to your first question. It feels like a totally different world. I have a passion for it, but need more practice keeping sterility, have clinicals coming up. Awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, I haven't worked in any non-sterile environments. I've just picked patients up from the ICU and pre-op and stuff like that and drop patients off in PACU. But it is a different environment in the OR. It's a fun environment. I think it's fun. Bradley, what are you doing? You don't want to be in the video? No. My wife is just crawling on the floor. Oh my God. Bradley, what is the best way to prepare for first exposure to the OR? Videos, sponge cadavers only go so far. How do I prepare for the actual exposure to a bleeding heart or actual organs? I mean, I'll be totally honest with you. I don't think anything can really prepare you for the real thing when you're actually in an OR, actually working on a patient. You don't get that sense of I'm actually operating or helping operate on an actual person. Nothing can give you that sense other than actually doing it, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's a very overwhelming experience initially, but as it goes on, you realize how much good you're doing and how good it feels to do what you do and to be able to help people in the capacity that you're helping. So it really becomes an amazing feeling. Drew Samuelson, I'm thinking about going into medicine, but I'm a slow learner. Do you think medical school will be hard for me? Drew, I'll be perfectly honest with you, dude. Like I've said before, if you have the passion for it, it doesn't matter if you're a slow learner. If you have the passion for it and you have the drive, you can get through it. I mean, look at like Dr. Chung. I did the video with him a couple weeks ago. It took him 17 years to get through school. It took him a little bit longer than other people, and maybe it is because he was a slow learner. I don't know, but that's definitely a little bit longer than surgeons usually take to become attending surgeons. So you can absolutely still become a surgeon or a doctor if you want to. Just because you're a slow learner doesn't mean anything. Just may take you a little longer. No big deal. Clarissa Rodriguez, did any surgeons give you a hard time when you started? I know some surgeons can be a bit firm. Yes, absolutely. I have had some not so nice surgeons to work with, but and usually ahead of time before you head into that surgery what type of surgeon it is, because the other tech that you're working with as a student will tell you, hey, this surgeon's going to be on your butt. You need to make sure you have everything, and they're making sure they have everything. But it's weird. Some of those surgeons, it's like no matter what you do and how prepared you are coming into that surgery, they will nitpick at some of the smallest things, and it's like what makes them happy is to nitpick at those things and get mad at you about these certain little things, even though you are like racking your brain for the hour before the case, when you're setting up the case, and you're just constantly thinking about everything that the surgeon may want or need during this procedure, and then they ask for some off the wall thing that you happen to not grab, and your nurse has to run back to sterile supply, and there you sit there looking at you across the field like, WTF, man. It's like it's hard. It's hard. Scott, what's up, dude? All right. Sorry, kids are loud. Alicia Garrison, hi, at work. Can't wait to watch in full when I get home, going into surgical tech this fall. That's awesome, Alicia. So happy for that. I get tons of messages from all sorts of people that, are just now going to school for surgical technology. And I think it's great. I think it's great. Happy to be a part of the live stream, Mr. WAD. Happy you're here, my man. It's awesome. Finally made it to a live stream, Lorraine. Yes, you did. Ahmed, hello from Sudan. Wow, that's awesome. This charming life. I'm starting school in January, and I've heard a lot about working with surgeons being the hardest part. I'm nervous that I won't have tough enough skin. Any advice? So again, this goes back to the last question, kind of. But another piece of advice I have to go toward that is you have to recognize. Well, you kind of saw it in the video that I did with Dr. Chung, where they have things, outside of the OR that they're constantly thinking of. He may have a patient in the ICU, or they have a patient in the ICU that's just very difficult and, potentially getting close to end of life, and they have to deal with talking to the family about that and breaking news to the family about that. Or, the case you did before with the surgeon, they found out that the patient has cancer, and then after that procedure and in between, that surgeon's procedures, he has to go talk to the family and let the family know that, their mother, their daughter, their dad, their grandpa has cancer, and it's malignant, and they have to go into chemo and radiation, and they have to break all that horrible news to these patients, and then turn right back around and come right back into the OR and do another case. So it's hard. It's tough. That's a tough life. I mean, you definitely have to have the right personality for it, and it's not necessarily that surgeons are apathetic and non-emotional toward that type of stuff. They have emotions, but sometimes when you do have a difficult surgeon, just know that it might not just be because of something that you did or something that you forgot, but from other extenuating circumstances as well, if that makes sense. Oh, lots of messages. Man, I don't think I'm going to be able to get through all this. It's crazy. Wow, dogs are barking. Sorry if you hear that. Shh. Where did I miss? I missed it. What do you feel is the most important skill a surgical technologist should possess? Organization. Julissa Rodriguez, a very important skill a surgical tech possesses is definitely organization, because that's, 90% of our job, and 100% of our job is to make sure that we do not retain anything inside of a patient. That's absolutely my worst nightmare to ever happen, is to forget about something, or, do a count wrong and leave something in a patient, have like a retained sponge or something like that. That is my absolute worst fear. I would have nightmares. And so organization, absolutely key. You got to be organized. Darian Black, thank you for doing this. My question is, how could I strengthen my application in order to be accepted to a CST course? What advice do you have for a student just starting out? Darian, just showcase your passion for the field. Schools are looking for good students. They don't want students that talk back. They don't want students that are going to be lazy. They want students that are focused on the field that they want to be in and the field that they want to be a part of. So find a way to share that in that application. You are awesome, Shane. Love your channel. Thanks, man. Rodian. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. How does specialization in a particular field work? Darian Black again. Specialization is interesting. When you start working in a hospital or a surgery center, um, you're kind of thrown around all the different specialties just so you get a good mix. And depending on what the hospital needs, they may need you more in robots, or they may need you more in ortho or neuro or general or OBGYN. Wherever they need you, they will put you. And over time, you kind of find like a niche where you find yourself being put in the same types of cases all the time, because surgeons may come up to the front desk after cases and be like, oh man, I just had a case with Darian and he was so good, I really want to make sure that I have him in my room all the time. So when that happens, then you kind of go hand in hand with certain surgeons, and it just kind of works that way. So think about it like this: what hospitals want surgeons to come to their hospital. They have many different hospitals in town that they can go to. So a way to entice surgeons to come to their hospital is to make sure that they have their team available to them when they come to the hospital. So when they find a team that they like to work with, you usually end up working with that surgeon quite a bit. That's just how it works. That's usually how it works, but it happens over time. Page right out. Question: have you found that your powers of focus and steadiness have increased over time working as a CST? Yes, my powers. I like how you called them powers, like I'm a superhero. Yeah, so focus and steadiness have increased over time, just because over time you feel more and more comfortable doing the procedures that you're doing. Initially when you go in there, you're like wide-eyed, deer in the headlights, like, holy crap, I'm in the middle of surgery right now, and a patient's abdomen is open on the, and it's just insane, right? It's totally insane. And then 2 years later, you are assisting that surgery, and you are hands deep in some small bowel, like helping retract small bowel out of the way for the surgeon, so they're able to look at large bowel or transverse colon, whatever it is. It's so, yeah, over time that steadiness and that focus really hones in, and it gets good and gets fun. Sherry Reagan, thanks for the live stream. Had to log in to view the questions. Thanks, Sherry. So happy all you guys are out here for the live stream. I think this is awesome. So cool. Ahmed, I have excessive sweating when I put on a gown and the room is cool. What do you suggest? That's tough, dude. Sweating is a real thing, my man. Sweating is a real thing. I know some surgeons that actually wrap their head in Curlex before they scrub in. They'll wrap their head in Curlex, or they'll have like their cap on, and then they'll wrap their head in Curlex just so they can get, make sure all the sweat doesn't start like seeping down into their eyebrows and into their eyes and potentially onto the field or anything like that. As far as inside under the gown, there's really no other way unless your hospital wants to buy some lighter gowns. I know they have like level 1, level 2, level 3 gowns, depending on like how impervious you want it to be. But the level 1 gowns are a little bit more airy, so you might get a little bit of relief from that. We have one surgeon that uses this cool vest. It's kind of funny. He puts this vest on before he scrubs in, and he's got like this little cooler full of ice that follows him around in the OR. It's like a little doggy that's following him, and it's like constantly pumping ice water through this vest that he's wearing underneath his gown. So it works for him. I guess he's got excessive sweating, but I don't know if they do that for everybody. All right. Ashley H, I'm currently in school, about to start my clinical. What do you suggest I pack? Pack light. You absolutely need a handheld notepad and a pen. So it's got to be a notepad that you can just fit inside your front pocket. So after procedures and after you break down your case and stuff like that, you can jot down little notes. Um, Also, during cases, I've said this before, when you help somebody turn, you keep that card that's on the gown, and you keep that on the sterile field with you, and just keep your skin marker there on the field with you. And during the procedure, you can jot down little notes on that little card. And then at the end of the procedure, save that card, put it under the back table or something like that. Save it for the end of the day, and then transfer all those notes into your notepad. Very, very nice thing to do. That's what I did a lot of. What is a CSFA? It's a Certified Surgical First Assistant. Melissa Schultz, what does your wife do for work? Is she in the same line of work as you? She is not, actually. She's not in the medical field at all. She works in accounting at a law firm. She likes doing, I make fun of her all the time. I shouldn't make fun of her. She's like, she's a paper pusher. She works behind a desk all day. And yeah, she likes what she does. I was wondering if I could email you and get more information from you. Do you have a business email? Yes, Bay2 Vegas, I do have an email. If you go to the website, surgicaltechtips.com, there is a contact us link on there, and you can get my personal email on there, and you can email me through the website, and I will hopefully get back to you as soon as possible. Janae, do you have to do anything dealing with blood transfusions? In the heart room, we do give blood quite a bit. I don't really have to do anything with that. So the only thing that I really do, uh, I know if we are doing a heart, we usually have 4 units of blood that are type and crossed in the room on every single heart case. So at the beginning of the case, as soon as the patient rolls back in the room, I will take some patient stickers, go down to the blood bank, and go through with the tech down there, and basically go through the expiration dates and the patient name and all of their information to make sure that's the blood for this patient. And I'll bring all 4 units of those up to the OR in a cooler and hand them off to the nurses in our OR. And then, obviously I'm scrubbed in during the case with the surgeon. So if in the event that we need to give blood during the surgery, the nurses, the circulating nurses, will take the blood up to the anesthesiologist, and they will give them the blood, and the anesthesiologist will give the blood to the patient. All right. Chubsky, where are you from? I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, the city of neon, I guess. I don't know. I don't really go down to the strip very much. Hey, man, what's up? Looking back from the very beginning, Eddie, my man, you've been here for a while. Looking back from the very beginning of this channel, did you ever think your channel would have received the amount of success it has in the last couple of years? Love your vids, Shane. Keep up. Absolutely not, dude. I am like shocked every single time I look, at the analytics and look at how many people are watching the videos. I mean, it's like steadily gone up. We're to the point now where I think there's like 120,000 views per month, and that to me is just insane. Like I remember when it was just like 10 views. So I think it's awesome that so many people out there are interested in watching these videos. not just surgical techs, but but pretty much everybody. So it's pretty awesome. Thank you very much for responding to my question. You're my biggest inspiration. You're the real reason for me in choosing ST as my career. Thanks, TR Emmanuel. Appreciate that. The guy from India. I will remember that. Good to hear, man. It's the best thing in the world. Student tech guide. How long do you have when you are on call to get back to the hospital? So some hospitals do a 30-minute callback time, and that's 30 minutes from. So they text you or call you or page you. Some hospitals still use pagers, oddly enough. But you have 30 minutes from the time that you call back. So for me, they send me a text message, or they'll call me to let me know that I have to come in. And if they call me and I talk to somebody personally, then the time starts then, and I have 30 minutes to get to the hospital. So you really have to live, fairly close to the hospital to be able to get there. Luckily, Vegas isn't that big, so you can pretty much live anywhere around Vegas and get to a hospital. Plus, we have a lot of hospitals here. Way too many hospitals. Mr. WAD, man, you got lots of questions, my dude. What is your favorite surgical specialty? My favorite surgical specialty. Honestly, I think my favorite specialty is thoracic. Not just because I get to work with Dr. Chung all the time, because he's a cool guy and he's fun to work with, but kind of going back to the videos where we talked about MSU protocol, or the make crap up as you go along, because the anatomy when you're doing lung surgery, it tends to change, and it tends to be very different for every patient and every person that we operate on. So there is a lot of like thinking at the moment, and really being on your heels as far as the surgeries go. And that's what I don't know, man. I really really like that. I like going into a surgery and not quite knowing what you're going to get into. You know what I mean? It's not always cut and dry and it's the same thing. It's fun. It's funner that way, I think. Jessica Domingue, when you do incisions, are you ever scared to cut too deep? Initially, when I was first starting off as an FA, my God, I remember my hand shaking when I had a knife blade in my hand. I'd been a tech for 8 years or 9 years, and then it's totally different when you have the scalpel in your own hand and you're the one making an incision. It's definitely a different experience, and I absolutely love it now. And I'm much more comfortable now making incisions. But initially, yeah, I absolutely was scared I was going to cut too deep, and there was one time where I did cut too deep. So yes. Pretty good with instruments, no job experience yet. When starting off, what basic procedures are you expected to know? I think some basic procedures that you should know are basically any type of hernias, whether it be inguinal or umbilical, um, small breast cases, and like lipoma excisions and stuff like that. It could be, and mastectomies, sentinel node biopsies. Those are all like general type procedures. Appendectomies, lap choles. When you come into OBGYN, cystoscopy, or not cystoscopies, hysteroscopies are a common thing. Tubal ligations, hysterectomies, those are all very common procedures. I would say all of those types of cases are most students, as soon as they come into the OR, will be doing, because those are kind of like your first step into surgery. Darian, I want to become an orthopedic surgeon. Do you think experience as a CST would prepare me for that experience? Also, I really look up to you. Thank you for putting so much effort into your channel. Being a CST would absolutely help prepare you for that experience. You would be leaps and bounds ahead of any other surgical residents out there as far as experience goes in the OR. We work with residents and surgical residents now at my hospital, and I can tell you right now, there is a huge difference between a surgical resident that is comfortable in the OR and one that is not comfortable in the OR. You can see it in their hands, and you can see it just in their mannerisms in the OR, and it's you can tell who has had experience in the OR. Absolutely, you can. So, without a doubt, that experience would help big time. Okay, Lacey Jones. I have 4 weeks left of clinicals and just found out I have tendonitis. Ooh, what would you do if you have an injury? I mean, you got to let it heal. There's no way around it. You don't want to hurt yourself to the point where you can't work at all. So listen to your doctors. Let it heal, and then get back into it. Would you recommend a new CST grad apply immediately after graduation from Meridian's First Assist program, or should I get a year's experience in the OR first? So you absolutely can go straight from CST into a CSFA program. The thing with Meridian is that you need to be partnered up with a hospital that's local to you, and you need to have surgeons sign off on you as well. So, me being a CST already, I already had a relationship with many, many different surgeons at my hospital. And my hospital is where I did all of my cases for my FA. So when you already have that relationship with multiple surgeons that come to your hospital and you're like, hey, you come up to them with the paperwork. You're like, hey, I'm going through CSFA school. I was hoping you'd sign up with me so I could, assist some cases with you and you could sign off on me and grade me. And they're usually all for it because they know you. And so I don't know if that would be a little harder to do if you've never worked as a CST before. I'm assuming it would be a little harder, but either way, you could get it done. You could get it done right away, or you could be a CST for a year. Being a CST for a year is only going to make you a stronger FA. So keep that in mind too. It's only going to make you stronger and more comfortable in the OR. So take that and think about that. I know it's been a while. What's the hardest part of school? Hardest part of school when I was going through a surgical tech school. Yeah, it was 10 years ago. But I just remember all of the memorization being very hard. And I mean, I always loved like anatomy and microbiology and all that stuff. I loved that stuff, and I loved memorizing like bones and nerves and vessels. I loved all that. I think some of the hardest parts were just repetition of memorizing everything over and over and over, instruments, cases, and then going on that transition, going from like book work into clinicals. That like I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks or something like that I had where we would do like mock surgeries and stuff like that. I think that was some of the hardest stuff, because you can only read so much and you can only take so many tests. But when you are actually put into doing it in a practical situation, when you are, first scrubbing in for the first time, or setting up your first back table, or opening up your first sterile field and doing your first mock surgery, that's when it hit me, and it was harder. I was excited, but it was harder, trying to put all that knowledge into actual practically, doing it. All right. I should have brought water over here. I'm getting cotton mouth here. I might have to end soon. My kids are dying to go to the pool. Let's see. Jurgla, is the FA program worth going to? Yes, it absolutely is. So initially, I didn't really. I had heard about FAs, but they weren't really a mainstay thing here in Nevada and at my hospital. I knew about them, but I wasn't really interested in going to school for it. And it wasn't until my OR directors and charge nurses kind of like pushed me into it, and they were like, Shane, we really, really think you should do this. We really think you'd be a huge asset. And, the hospital wants to put you through school. We really want you to do it. And, I'm like, I got kids. I got baseball practice with the kids and this and this and this and this. And finally I was just like, all right, you know what? I should just do it. And it was I'm so thankful for it. So thankful for it, because not only can I still be a surgical tech and still, scrub cases and pass instruments, on the other side of it, I can help out so much more. And I can first assist cases, and I can, staple bowel or staple across pulmonary arteries as we're doing a lobectomy. And I can do all that stuff. I can close up incisions. I can harvest a vein for a heart procedure. It's an amazing feeling being able to help out in an even bigger capacity than you already were as a surgical tech. So yes, absolutely. If it's so worth it. I absolutely love it. All right. I think I'm gonna do one more question, guys. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of questions. I think I'm just gonna do one more though. We've been at it for 47 minutes. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's do this one. Miranda Clemson, question: as a CST, what is the hardest part of pharmacology? I'm about to start my clinical rotation, and keeping track of all the drugs is my biggest concern. Also, thank you for all these videos. I honestly can't remember how much pharmacology we had to study. I know I hated it. I absolutely hated it. That's probably why I haven't done a video on it, to be honest with you. I hate pharmacology. As far as using it in the OR, it's pretty much just locals that we take on the field, 0.5% marcaine, 0.25% marcaine, 1% lidocaine, epinephrine. You need to know what that does. Papaverin, heparin for like hepsaline and stuff like that. Those are the only types of drugs we really deal with on the sterile field. I think they have you learn a broader scope of pharmacology, so you have a better understanding of, what the anesthesiologist is giving at certain times during procedures, and understanding why they're giving, a certain type of drug during the procedures. So yeah, eventually I'll do a video on that. I'll just have to bust out the book again and get back into it. All right. Will this live be saved? Yes. All right. So let's end it here. This live video will be saved. It will be posted back up onto the channel. YouTube does all that stuff for me. So all of this that you see here will be back up as just like a surgical tech tips Q&A live stream type deal. I want to thank you all for coming out to the live stream. Those of you that did, I know some of you from across the world are in crazy time zones right now, and I really, really appreciate you coming out here to the live stream. We will definitely have to do this again. It'll be much, much easier to do it in my new house. In this house is a little small, so my wife had to like kidnap the kids and take them outside so they don't make tons of noise and stuff like that. In the new house, I'm actually going to have my own office, and I should be able to do this type of stuff, a lot easier. So thank you guys so much for coming out. Really appreciate it. I'll see you again.